this is what I have to say. Let us forget spites and grudges and concentrate. Come, let us sit and try to relate. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come, let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique together. And that is really the call to build, not to break, the call to transform, the call to make better our communities, make better our three islands. I want to welcome you to the Dynamic Hour. Again, I want to encourage you to share the live. Sharing is caring. So if you're viewing me on Facebook and YouTube, please go ahead and share the live. Sharing is caring. And you underestimate when you share how many people the program reaches. Many a times you just believe, you share it, and not many people get a chance to view it. I give you a typical example. In the last 3 programs, for example, just the last 3, you shared the program more times than the other programs. All right? Way more times. And we had more people viewing the program because you did that. So, for example, the last program, we had about, let me make sure I get the exact total, because it's so important to share that with you so you understand what you're doing. So in the last program, we trying to get this here. Yeah, trying to get this here. All right. Okay. So the last program you shared the right. So you shared it 136 times. So there are people who shared the program in groups, who shared the program on their personal page, but 136 times on Facebook. And what you saw was on Facebook alone, 12,000 people viewed the program. On YouTube, 3,000 people viewed the program. So that's about 15,000 people viewing, listening to the program for a lengthy period of time. So it's not just viewing, but they stayed on to listen to the program because you shared the program. The program before the last, 117 people shared the program. And we saw 9,100 people viewing the program on Facebook and 2,100 people viewing it on YouTube, making it some 11,200 people viewing, and that's just on Facebook and YouTube. I'm not talking about radio. On radio, you're not able to quantify. You're not able to give raw numbers as to how many people are listening. It's not like the United States or the United Kingdom or Canada or so, where you can know how many people listening to you. on radio. Then the program before that one, we had 181 people viewing it. Sorry, sharing it. 181 people shared the program. So maybe in groups, maybe on your personal page. And we saw 17,000 people viewing that program. 17,000 on Facebook alone. On YouTube, we saw 2,800 people viewing that program. So that's almost 20,000 people viewing the program. And you have to understand that we are talking about a program with some political flavor to it. That's important, right? So, for example, Ride Along has a morning program. I think Cook Sita Hall, he has that program. But that program deals with, calypso, all kind of stuff, but not the politics, not real political commentary or current affairs, but politics. That's totally different. So if you have to compare programs in terms of popularity, in terms of reach in the talk show world, looking at the politics, the economics, that kind of stuff, all right, then you have to look at Sheldon Scott's program, for example. I give you a typical example. Sheldon Scott, in his last program on YouTube, he had 4,000 people viewing. On Facebook, he had 2,500 people viewing. In the program before that, he had 5,500 people viewing on YouTube. And on Facebook, he had 4,900 people viewing on YouTube. All right, on Facebook, sorry. The program before that, he had 6,400 people viewing on YouTube, and he had 6,100 people viewing on Facebook. The program before that, he had 3,200 people viewing on YouTube and 3,200 people viewing on Facebook. The program before that, he had 3,900 people viewing on YouTube and 3,000 on Facebook. The program before that, he had 3,300 on YouTube and 3,500 on Facebook. It's important because it speaks to who are actually listening and following his program, right? That's the last 6 programs. If I look at my last 6 programs, I had 12,000 people viewing on Facebook, 3,000 viewing on YouTube. I had 9,100 viewing on Facebook. I had 2,100 viewing on YouTube. I had 17,000 people viewing on Facebook. I had 2,800 viewing on YouTube. I had 9,800 people viewing on Facebook. I had 1,600 people viewing on YouTube. I had 7,800 people viewing on Facebook. I had 1,300 viewing on YouTube. I had 7,000 viewing on Facebook. I had 1,500 people viewing on Facebook and YouTube. So I am not really heavy on YouTube, right? In fact, I have never exploited that space. I've never pushed on YouTube. I went on that platform very late when compared to them. Jenny, because you're looking at current affairs, Jenny, for example, she does a once weekly program. Once weekly. So you cannot compare Sheldon Scott, Kem Jones, and those who do a daily program. So, for example, I do 2 programs. All right? 2 programs every day. Sheldon Scott does 1 program per day, well, during the nighttime, but it's 2 hours. All right? I do 1 hour in the morning, 1 during the night. So you could kind of compare that. All right? You can do that. If you look at Jenny's program, it's a once weekly program. Sometimes she's sleeping an extra program or 2. Sometimes. If the thing hot, she does that. So for her, with the um, Lacret program she did, she saw 16,000 people viewing that program. All right? 16,000. And I told you I did the Lacret program, and I had 17,000 plus 2,800, almost 20,000 people viewing that program. But she's only on YouTube, right? She does her program on YouTube. I am on Facebook and YouTube. The program before that, she saw 6,900 people viewing her. The program before that, she saw 3,300 people viewing her. The program before that, she saw 5,900 people viewing her. The program before that, she saw 7,600 people viewing her. The program before that, she had 5,800 people viewing her. All right? So I'm only saying that you can compare these programs, right? You can compare, because it's current affairs, it's the politics. It's not like the ride along, is it the breakfast show or whatever, uh, whatever the name. It's a different flavored program, different content. All right, and then you have, in terms of the politics, you have the Carl Caton and Devon Romain's program. They have a program too on Real FM. All right, they have their thing. They do their thing on it's a kind of, how do you say it? Every, so on a Sunday, or sometime during the week. I think once a week, every day, once per day, right? So different. So you have the Sunday program with Devon Romain and Carl Keaton, and then Carl Keaton would come on with different people, and then you have the Francis Spear. So they deal with the politics, right? But Francis Spear, really, it's 1,000 something people who view him on YouTube. All right, it's about 1,100, 1,200. He's really in the low ranking. Then you have the Carl Keaton and Devon Romain, just about 1,000 something or 2,000 something people. They are really in the low ranking. So I'm not really putting them in any, but I'm only saying that we continue to see more and more people viewing this program when it comes to current affairs, the politics, specifically looking at government, looking at the opposition, looking at what is going on politically in the country. People view this program more, and they trust this program more in terms of the information that I disseminate on a daily basis. And the facts are there, right? So the ride along program, it's the Wake Up Club, all right, with Coxita Hall. It's a different type of program. So it can't be compared, period, in terms of morning programs or morning talk show programs. It is totally different. The content, the make of the program. He would not get into the politics. He would not discuss, the NNP and the NDC and the government and no, it's different, totally different. And again, Ride Along has a good reach, right? Let's face it, it's more regional and international. Junior George, they're doing a fantastic job in reaching a great number of people, and that's wonderful. But just putting things into context so you can understand when it comes to the politics. So we have been able to reach more people, and more people are actually listening in consistently so to our programs, which is great. And we have radio. But again, we cannot quantify how many people are actually listening in via the radio. All right. Sheldon Scott, Talking Points, they bring their program on Real FM and on some FM station in New York. I don't know how established that is, whether it's online or whether it's actually on a FM station in New York. Right? I think they call it We Noise FM. All right, some kind of thing like that. But Real FM doesn't have a wide reach. That's the station up north. So that is where they carry their program. But they don't have a wide reach. Vibes FM has a wider reach than Real FM. Carriacou, PT Martinique, Grenada. And very soon, we will be able to cover way more people than nearly all the smaller radio stations, so to speak. All right, the bigger radio stations, they would always dominate because they have, what it takes. Nothing wrong with that. But when our equipment is set up, the new equipment, we will be able to reach, a huge amount of people via the radio. So it's so important for me to lend that information to you or provide that information to you so you understand we are in this as the boss in talk radio. When it comes to the politics, when it comes to economics, we are the boss in that field. There are other talk show programs looking at other things during the morning time. All right? Now, a lot of programs, but we dominate. Right, so I thought I should explain that to you, to say to you that you sharing the program is important. All right? Sharing is important. That is the main reason I share that data with you. Sharing the program on your platform is very important. Do not underestimate that. All right? You click, you share. You on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You on Facebook, follow, click follow. That's important. And when you come on the program, like, love, share, so you can get notifications. So you can, tell friends and colleagues and so on where they can listen to the program. So please do that. Continue to do that. So we dominate talk radio when it comes to current affairs, the politics, the economics, and issues like that. I want to share with you some positive stuff. I told you about the social safety net programs, and I explained for a lengthy period of time how the NNP supporters have dominated that program. They are the real beneficiaries of those social safety net programs. All right. And the back to school voucher program. But our government is calling it the Uniform and School Supplies Program. So that's a different name for the same thing. It is really back to school vouchers under the NNP. That is how it was called. So our government will kickstart that program sometime this week into next week. All right? So I want to encourage all our supporters and, people generally to take advantage of the program. Once you have a child going to school, they are not discriminating. They are not choosing this child over this child. Once you have a child going to a public school, right? Public school or a private school, because from what I understand, a child is a child. All right? If you're having problems in getting certain things, you can go and be a part of that program and get the vouchers on, because there are children who are going to private schools and their parents fighting to make ends meet too. A child is a child. Just like the free textbook program, it's across the board. The NNP removed it from the private schools. The NDC said, no, that should not be. All right? A child is a child. So let me just play a little piece of what the minister had to say on this.
For Education, Senator the Honorable David Andrews says the first batch of payments for school supplies and uniform assistance for the new school year will be made by the ministry next week. The process will take the same format as in previous years, cashless transfers digitally through QR codes. During a press conference on Thursday, Minister Andrews said the ministry has been processing and uploading applications to the program to ensure a seamless execution. Applications must be made through the individual schools.
The medium through which persons get onto those programs is through the schools. So parents are encouraged, if you think your child or your ward is in need of that kind of support, we encourage you to go to the schools, go to the principal and say, please enlist my child. And every principal ought to enlist your child, because this is a provision of the government of Grenada. It's a provision that the Ministry of Education is making available to all of our nation's students. Now, teachers can make recommendations, our school attendance officers can make recommendations, our counselors may make recommendations, but at the end of the day, parents can come forward and go to the schools to get their children enlisted. So we have received quite a lot of applications, and they are currently being uploaded and verified at the Ministry of Education.
Government is partnering with WePay to use its platform to implement the transfers to beneficiaries. WePay is an online payment service provider that offers fraud and risk protection. Vendors will also be trained to ensure efficient use of the machines.
We have engaged them directly. Previously, we had some agents that we were working through, and that proved to be a bit challenging for us. Now, though, we are working directly with the agents, and they are due to come into Grenada sometime next week to do training with the vendors. So a number of local vendors have been enlisted, and they'd be trained. The special adaptable machines that are made to, they're machine readable codes where all the information is put in. And so we're using the same methodology. The WePay agent, the WePay directors are going to be in Grenada next week to train vendors in the use of the machine and to have them installed. And so we anticipate that sometime before the end of next week, we could have the first set of payments made to beneficiaries.
Right, so that's very good. So again, that's the free voucher program, or the back to school voucher program. It's now the uniform and something. What's the uniform and schools? What's the uniform? Let me just get a new name. It's pretty much the same thing though. the uniform and school supplies program, right? So I want to encourage you to take full advantage of it. If you have children in the primary, pre-primary, secondary, in the school system, please go to the principals, and they will be in the schools. Go to the principals and put on your child or children's name so that they too can benefit from that. All right? So don't just let the NNP supporters dominate it, capitalize on it. Because many a times we remain where we are, leave the NNP folks to just take advantage of it. We have the free barrels program, for example. I think for every family, you're entitled to 2 barrels. Don't just sit there and allow the NNP supporters to take advantage of it. You need to take advantage of it too. Same thing with the debushing program. Do not just sit there and allow the NNP supporters to take advantage of that program. It's a social safety net program, and you need to take advantage of it. Go to the MP's office, put on your name for a contract or for a debushing work. Everybody cannot get a contract, but it's important. Take advantage of that. You have other social safety net programs, and that is why I was stressing the need for there to be a change, a restructuring of the seed program, changing the criteria to qualify for that program so our people can benefit. Because to date, the NNP supporters, they are the top beneficiaries of those programs because it was designed for them. Poor, vulnerable. In fact, a friend was saying to me, the NNP introduced the word vulnerable under Gary. It used to be the poor people. But when Keith Mitchell came, he started saying the poor and the vulnerable. So more regression. It got worse. So they designed those programs. Good morning, Telly. Right? My good partner, Telly. He designed those programs to accommodate them, their people, their supporters, because they're poor and they're vulnerable. And many of them are illiterate. And they make them poor, they make them vulnerable, and they make them illiterate. So that they would meet the criteria. They're going to fall into those programs easily. They're going to benefit from those programs easily. And the social safety net programs, when you add everything together, it is about $100 million that government is pumping every year into the hands of these people. It's under the social safety net programs. It's a whole pile of them. All right? It's like welfare. It's like a welfare thing, but it's different names. Let's move to another positive that's happening. So important to share the positive things that are happening. The firearms amnesty that expired, so you know, tougher penalties.
Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph says the amended Firearms Act No. 2 is now in full force, and anyone found in the possession of illegal firearms will be prosecuted under the law. 40 weapons were recovered, along with more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition by the Royal Grenada Police Force for the first half of 2024. 6 of the recovered firearms and 314 rounds of ammunition are directly related to the amnesty.
The Royal Grenada Police Force recovered 34 weapons, 34 firearms, and 914 rounds of ammunition. And that's, while aided by the conditions of the amnesty, this 34 weapons and 914 ammunitions were not recovered under the amnesty per se, but the conditions that prevailed helped in the recovery of these weapons and ammunition. And directly under the amnesty, there were 6 weapons recovered, and 339 rounds of ammunition. So I want to make the point that we considered that if we recovered one weapon, we would have been successful in the amnesty. We have recovered 6. Some jurisdictions right here in the region who attempted amnesties were not as successful as us.
Now that the 90-day period of the amnesty has expired, Senator Joseph elaborated on what will happen for the persons who have been found with illegal firearms.
The first one is the amendment to Section 20 of the Act, which creates the offense of possession of firearms and ammunition. And the penalty under the Act, under that section before the amendment, was on summary conviction, that is before the magistrate's court, a fine of $4,000 minimum and up to $20,000 or imprisonment for 2 to 5 years. Now, on summary conviction, there's no fine which the magistrate can impose. Instead, there's a minimum of 10 years imprisonment or up to 20 years. That's on summary conviction. On indictment, that is where you are tried in the High Court. Previously, there was a fine of $20,000 up to $60,000 and imprisonment for 5 to 20 years. The new penalty will be imprisonment, minimum 20 years, up to 40 years.
Senator Joseph also highlighted the area of the amended Firearms Act that deals with the discharge of firearms.
We have a situation where young men in general think it cool or fun or entertaining to fire off some shots. We've had that problem in some parts of the country. And that's an offense under Section 23 of the Act. Previously, it was a summary offense only, carrying a penalty in the form of a fine of $1,000 and imprisonment for 3 months. That has been adjusted now. On summary conviction, the fine would be $50,000 minimum and up to $100,000, or imprisonment to up to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, minimum 5, maximum 10. And on indictment, a fine of $100,000 to $250,000, and imprisonment to 10 to 20 years.
Yes, so that's good news, very good news. So those who believe that they can carry illegal firearms and get away with it, well, the laws are tougher and you need to be warned. You need to be warned. That's very good. You need to send that message. If you're found with an illegal firearm, you know what would happen to you. Even if it's reported that you fire off a shot or two or whatever illegally, if you don't have a license and so on and you didn't do the thing how you're supposed to do it, you can go in jail for a very, very long time. All right? The next positive thing, the schools in Carriacou. Education is key, and we want the folks in Carriacou, the students in Carriacou, to resume classes in September. So the Minister of Education journeyed up there and had this to say.
Is working toward a September 2nd reopening for schools in Carriacou and Petite Martinique. A team from the ministry led by Education Minister Honorable David Andrew, CEO Dominic Jeremiah, Permanent Secretary Aaron Francois, and other key technical office officials visited the island and met with stakeholders to chart the way forward. Minister Andrew said while several schools were damaged by Hurricane Beryl, alternative measures can be implemented to resume school in September.
All of Carriacou and Petite Martinique overwhelmingly wanted to remain on Carriacou and Petite Martinique to resume school. From education officials all the way down to students, we engaged all of those stakeholders, many of them parents and all, and they were all interested in remaining on Carriacou to resume school. They were aware that that would mean some forms of adjustment, and that had implications, but they are prepared to make the adjustments. And so a number of recommendations, Cabinet has approved a number of recommendations for the speedy resumption of school in Carriacou, and I'll probably just list a few of them. So the target is to resume school in September. We're targeting the opening dates. It's probably a bit ambitious, but we prefer to aim for the stars, and in case we miss, we might hit a top cloud. So we are going in that direction, and the stakeholders, they are aware that it might mean we could have a delay or two, a couple of weeks, but we are not aiming for that. We are aiming to resume school.
Schools with less damage that can be easily repaired are being prioritized to meet the reopening schedule.
There are some primary schools in Carriacou that are a lot easier to repair, and those we have already commissioned engineers to do the technical assessments and the quantities required for their repairs. So that's already in process. And just to skip off, that is also commissioned for the schools in the north of the island, MacDonald College, St. Grenada SDA Comprehensive, that have been damaged as well, so that we'll be able to engage contractors immediately to commence repairs. We anticipate that all of the schools on the mainland will be ready, and in Carriacou, we anticipate we are going to push as far as we can.
Minister Andrew says the TAMCC students on the island will be housed at a few schools and will adopt a blended approach to learning. There is also the option of attending the institution on the mainland until Carriacou returns to some form of normalcy.
There is the option to use a space. We have about 30 plus students using the TAMCC campus that was really destroyed, and they are going to be housed hopefully at one of these spaces in one of our secondary schools using a blended approach to learning there. So some elements will be done online while others will be done in person by the lecturers there. we will further engage them too, because we did not get a chance to engage as many of the students as possible, so, and their parents, to see what their feel is in relation to relocating to the mainland or staying in Carriacou, because that's still a little bit inconclusive, although we got strong sentiments from some sections that they wanted to remain in Carriacou even for that element.
Minister Andrews said the ministry will continue to provide assistance to university students, supplementary meal programs for schools, and uniform assistance to primary and secondary school students.
Yes, and the NNP will still complain and they would still say bad things about the government regarding the whole, organizing of the schools so that in September, students can go back to school and continue learning. The NNP will still attack them, will still say bad things about them, and that's how the NNP operates. In fact, they spend their time on their platforms just criticizing and condemning government, talking all kinds of bad things about the government. All right. It was interesting while I was following some of those opposition programs, because for me, I am in the talk show business. So I listen to nearly all these programs. And the name that pop up under the Sheldon Scott's program or Talking Points is Brian Grimes, this guy who is in charge of, or who is the president of the Public Workers Union. And boy, he's commenting like crazy on the Sheldon Scott's program. All right? Brian Grimes, yes. And Sheldon Scott, that program is an NNP program. So Brian Grimes, man, he's a big fan, in my belief, of that program. Guys, they're commenting. And so, you see, for me, I get to know who is who. When I listen to those programs, I get to know who calling in, the cadre of callers, what they're saying. All right. I look at the comments, so I get to know who commenting, what they're saying. That's key. So you know where you stand. Generally out here, government, party. It is so important. Many people don't do that. I do it. That is why I'm so knowledgeable of what's going down in this place. All right? Yes. So I tell you, it's interesting, huh? Very interesting. Another very good program.
And Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs has launched a program designed to offer targeted care and support to young people across Grenada. The HYPE mentoring program, or Harnessing Young Potential Excellence, was launched on the grounds of the Marion Community Center on Wednesday. It was developed in collaboration with the Juvenile Justice Division and supported by the OACS USAID Opportunities to Advance and Support Youth for Success OASIS project. With crime in the region a high priority area at the just concluded CARICOM Heads meeting in Grenada, Prime Minister and Minister for National Security, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, hopes the HYPE program will help reduce the incarceration rate in the country.
Grenada has one of, and I'm the minister responsible for national security, the highest incarceration rates per capita in the world. It means, on average, for every individual Grenadian, we jail more Grenadians or send them to jail. So it means our tools for dealing with crime and criminality, particularly amongst young people, needs a serious revision. Because the problem with that is that the risk that you are going to create a proper criminal, one that is beyond redemption, is very, very high. And that is what has happened in the case of Grenada. That is why we have this high incarceration rate, because we are essentially putting back people repeatedly in prison. And so the very small investment that the government is making here, I think it's about $600,000 if we add the bus and the $500,000. I told Minister I was going to say the figures, because sometimes people say the government doesn't care about young people and they will be talking. Money is actually being spent in order for this to happen.
Prime Minister Mitchell and his cabinet colleagues will be leading by example by receiving training to be mentors of the program.
We need more male mentors. And so I want to advocate by putting myself and the males in the cabinet and the government of Grenada first to lead by example by having us sign up to be trained as part of the mentorship program so that when we go out to ask for volunteers, we are not being hypocrites and that we can do so. And I really want to make this plea for men. A lot of older men in particular talk, they criticize the young men, etc. But talking and criticizing isn't mentoring, right? It isn't helping, and we need a lot of help.
Minister.
Yes, so that's very good. I love to hear that. And the ministers, well, our beloved Prime Minister and the ministers of government, they're leading by example. So they are signing up to be mentors. They're signing up for the program to also be trained to be mentors. That's what you want to see. You see, it's a young team of men and women. If it was the NNP, it was a bunch of elderly folks in government at that time. They never had the energy and the vibes to be involved in these things. You see a similar thing with the way they're doing the work, the relief, the rebuilding effort, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, St. Patrick, St. Mark. They're underground cleaning, they're underground doing stuff. And that is what you want to see. So again, kudos to you, thumbs up to you and to the people who are following some of the NNP programs. It is taking a toll on a lot of you because it's just negativity, 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 complaining, 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 and lies and lies and more lies on those programs. All right? And not only that, if you understand what they're trying to do is to make the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique believe that by some magic, their homes could be rebuilt, their roofs could be rebuilt in a matter of days or weeks or a month or two after the passage of the hurricane. Remember, we are still in the hurricane season. So it is prudent to temporarily, the tarpaulin and all these different things, to do what government and NGOs and CBOs and so on are doing in the meanwhile, because the hurricane season is from June to November. So June, July, August. We are in August. Then you have September, October, November. So while you have the NNP complaining and talking all kind of nonsense, the prudent thing to do is to find place for these people, because there is enough places in Carriacou. Though it's not perfect or totally ideal, there's enough places in Carriacou that they can still live in the meanwhile. All right? And then the intervention will come to rebuild. So you're rebuilding better and stronger. That's so important. So important. But you are still in the hurricane season. And don't make the NNP people fool you. There is enough places, though some of them, their roof partially damaged, they are covering, tarpaulin, make, some galvanized, some whatever, and people are able to live. All right? There are some people living in the downstairs, a couple of them in downstairs of buildings. So they're giving you this false idea that people are living on the streets. That is what the NNP is telling people out there. That the folks in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, they are living on the steps and streets, and that's what they out there telling people, the NNP pundits and surrogates and so on. It's a lie. We know the conditions are not ideal. We know the conditions are tough, and that is expected. We experienced that after Ivan and Emily here in Grenada. So we know. But the government is trying, NGOs, CBOs, corporate bodies, they are trying, volunteers, they are trying, the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, they are trying. So I am saying you have to be prudent. The NNP would be out there forever trying to milk the situation to make political mileage. That is what they want. They're accustomed to that. right? And that is why people are not gravitating towards the message. They may think people are gravitating towards it, but people are not. You know, I was taken aback yesterday. The government had this ceremony unveiling the this new inter-Caribbean airline or plane with a Grenadian, well, with a Grenada flag at the tail end of the plane, right? So they have that Grenada flag plastered, as one would say, on the tail end of the plane, and they had an all Grenadian crew. Inter-Caribbean, they're introducing some new planes or more planes to the Caribbean. All right. And Grenada is one of the first to get one of those planes as a start. And they would be wrapping the tail of those planes in pretty much all the Caribbean islands, flag and so on. All right. So that's really good. So it's a part of the marketing strategy, the promoting and so on. So you had an all Grenadian crew. Boy, those NNP and them, they just saw the thing and they went into negative mode. Total negative. And in fact, it was a reconfirmation of how negative the NNP supporters are and what they have been cultured into. They're totally negative. Government cannot do anything for these people or to please these people. They're just negative, negative, negative. You read those comments. It under the GIS post or under our beloved Prime Minister post. Well, more people under our beloved Prime Minister post, they're positive. But under the GIS post, with that thing, boy, they don't even have a clue. They did not have the information before them. But they just go straight into negative drive. Some of them were so ashamed, they went back and deleted their comment. Some of them were so embarrassed that they went and they deleted their comments. Because for me, I go through step by step all the comments. Don't play with me. Some people underestimate what I do, And I know many of the people who are commenting because it's similar to the same people who are commenting under the Talking Points program with Sheldon Scott and the NNP and them, right? It is similar people who would be under the Carl Caton and Devon Romaine and them program. Similar people under Jenny's program. Similar. So I can match it. I have a booklet here that I match those names. I pinpoint those names. Same people. Just negative NNP supporters. Dangerous. And I mean, look, there could be nothing that this government doing or intend to do or did to please these people or make these people happy. No, they don't know nothing about this plane, They say, well, the government take money, the insurance money, and they buy plane. The government take this and look at they buy plane, and people in Carriacou this and people buy what plane? What plane? Huh? It's just sad, but I am happy that people were able to see what I have been saying. You have a lot of NNP supporters who are totally negative. So even if we got a plane, that's a good thing. But to them, it's a bad thing. And when they discovered that Grenada didn't buy any plane, Inter-Caribbean, they're rolling out this thing through the region where they're bringing in a new fleet or more planes. And they decide this is how they're going to do it. And the good thing about it, in keeping with our 58th and so on, on Emancipation Day and the thing just happened so nicely. I said, boy, but the amount of negativity that exists in this place, folks, do not underestimate it. It is just a lot of negative vibes.
It is with great pleasure, pride, and excitement that we gather here this morning to mark this historic occasion, marking a new chapter for Grenada, Grenada's Tourism Authority, the Ministry of Tourism, and our relationship with Inter-Caribbean. As the Minister for Civil Aviation, I'm thrilled to share this moment with my colleagues and with you, and to highlight the significance of this occasion, especially as Grenada marks its 50th year of independence. So we welcome this new look. It's the first of its kind for Grenada, and we are happy to be the trailblazers, or in this case, the tailblazers. The spirit of Grenada represents our government's commitment to boosting tourism, the tourism industry, and obviously our economy. But I want to say first, to ensuring that all people have the opportunity to move. It is not just about tourism, it's about the fact that if we are going to play a significant part in supporting our people, mobility becomes critical. And if you can't leave Grenada, or if you can't get to Grenada, we can forget the tourism industry. Because first and foremost, all people need to be able to move. And so, Mr. Gardner, I want to thank you and your team. I want to thank the team at the Ministry of Tourism for ensuring that we were able to get this done. Saying to the Grenadian crew, I'm happy with you being given the privilege to fly the Grenadian Spirit to Morris Bishop International Airport.
Yes, and that's leadership. That's leadership. But folks, boy, them NNP supporters, they have no clue. They didn't have a clue. But they started spreading gossip, rumors, lies. But I was happy that it happened that way, so that people could actually see through these people. They are so negative. You cannot please these people. And I have been saying that to the NDC from day one. You cannot please NNP supporters. They are negative. They are wishing this government bad. They want the government to fail, because that is how they culture them. They have been cultured that way. This is a good thing for Grenada. So this is one of many planes that Inter-Caribbean will be introducing to the region. You know, they're in the region already, but they're introducing some new ones. Grenada is just the first country to get one of them. And it tied in nicely with our 50th independence celebrations. We are still celebrating 50 years. It tied in nicely with Emancipation Day. And that was great. But boy, them NNP supporters, I tell you, you cannot please them. Because all their talk show programs and who they listen to is they listen to these podcasters, right? These talk show hosts who push the NNP agenda. And it's just pure negativity. And it can rub off on them. I'm telling you, that's who they listen to. So I always urge you, say to you, do not listen to their programs, because it can have a negative impact on you. Do not listen to their programs, period. You have to start becoming so mature to ignore. You just don't want to hear what they're discussing and remain in focus, because it can rub off negatively. It can have psychosocial effect on you, psychological effect on you. I'm telling you. Boy, just the photos that were up, not even the videos yet, and the amount of negativity that they put out there, it made me think twice, although I knew it existed. It's out there. They're negative. Folks, I want to say to you, the piece of audio I played from Jenny's program caused a lot of people to get a better understanding of this situation with Jonathan Lacrette and the government and our beloved Prime Minister and what took place. And I'm happy I played it. In fact, people called me from near and far saying, Kem Jones, thanks, because they were not that clear. But when they listen to that piece of audio, they get to know what was going down. In fact, there is a call from a number of people for the party to move swiftly to have Jonathan Lacrette removed from the party and as the caretaker for St. George Northwest. So there's a call now by reasonable thinking people for there to be a motion to remove him from the party itself, totally. Because with what transpired there and with the information in the public domain, it is becoming clearer and clearer what was taking place long before. So there are people, party members, who are calling for him to be removed. So he was sacked from government and from the cabinet. He now needs to be removed from the party itself, from the NDC party. If he's a member, and maybe he is, and I think he is, he should be removed from that. His membership should be revoked, and he should be removed from the party altogether. All right? There are people who are calling for that, and I will support that 100%. So that was Jenny Simon.
Doing so is that as Prime Minister,
Our Prime Minister,
sitting in the cabinet, I formed the view that I had personally lost trust and confidence in Minister Lacrette in his capacity as a minister, and in those circumstances I thought it was appropriate for me to inform him of that fact and to inform his fellow cabinet colleagues. I want to emphasize that there's no personal issues between myself and Mr. Lacrette. I am quite fond of him. There are no personal issues between him and the ministers of government. They have an excellent relationship. This is purely an issue of my prime ministerial discretion. Senator, the Honorable David Andrew, will act as Minister for Youth and Sport in the meantime until I make a further decision as to the substantive post of Minister for Youth and Sports or any.
Right. Yes, so that was our beloved Prime Minister there. And I played that piece from Jenny's program, and boy, a lot of people were able to put two and two together because people are asking questions.
Him again, not by telephone, and I don't have his number, and I doubt he has mine.
In fact, it is said once a person comes out and have to say over and over that this person did not leak anything to me, I don't have his number, I don't this over and over, you have to watch that person. Not only that, you can say, but how that person is so defensive? Why that person repeating that? You know, if I remember doing a 6 months program in one of those colleges, and the lecturer said a similar thing. All right? Saying if a person has to come out and repeat over and over, well, that person didn't leak anything to me. That person didn't do that to me over and over. Then you have to watch that person. All right? Like they're too defensive. It's too much in your face. You have to say, but wait, why you just say it once and that's it, right? But over and over, you didn't leak that to me, you didn't leak that to me, you didn't leak. You watch that person.
So to say that he's leaking information to me it's wrong. It's very wrong. And I do hope that
right, so listen,
that was not the strokes. I've never spoke to him again. Not by telephone, and I don't have his number. And I doubt he has mine. So to say that he's leaking information to me it's wrong. It's very wrong. And I do hope that that was not the straw that broke the camel back, the final straw, although it was said. And it's not just with him. It's not just with him. We'll come to that a little later. However, the Prime Minister called a special cabinet meeting yesterday.
Right. So that's kind of public knowledge. All right. The Prime Minister did call a special cabinet meeting. And I need to explain to those who are listening for the first time. A cabinet meeting is a secret meeting or a private meeting, a confidential meeting with ministers of government and the Prime Minister. So it's not a public meeting or an open meeting and anybody could go and listen in. No. It is a confidential, secret, in other words, it's a high-level secret meeting, private, confidential. So Jenny would not be in that, and the NNP people will not be in that period. All right, so that's something that you need to know.
31st of July 2024. He began by saying,
Right. So Jenny started off by saying, he began by saying. So she's now quoting the Prime Minister in a private confidential meeting. How did Jenny obtain that information to quote the Prime Minister in a confidential meeting where only ministers of government, Jonathan Lacrette, ministers, and the Prime Minister? All right, that's important.
this meeting is about Jonathan Lacrette. He then addressed Senator Lacrette. He said, Mr. Lacrette, I have lost confidence in you and I do not trust you. I therefore informed the Governor General to revoke your appointments as Senator and Minister of Government, after which he was asked to leave the cabinet and the building. He got up.
Right. So she quote there verbatim, all right, saying this is what the Prime Minister said in a confidential meeting. She then went on to say what Jonathan Lacrette did. And she's not just talking about what he say, but physically, his movement. So he got up, she said, and this is what he said, or what he said there. And one wonders, who told her all of that?
With a smile and
Even his body language, with a smile. He got up with a smile.
thank the Prime Minister for the privilege to serve and his colleagues. He thanked them also for being there, I guess, with him and all of that. And he wished the government well in its future endeavor. And he left, got up and left. When he got up to the top of the stairs, two officers was waiting on him.
So he got up, he thanked the Prime Minister and the people in there. And look, this is Jenny quoting it. This is verbatim, word by word, telling you what transpired in that private meeting, confidential meeting, cabinet meeting. But when he left the room, and she mentioned two police officers were there waiting. So the ministers of government remained, all the others remained. The Prime Minister and everybody else remained in the room. In the room. Jonathan Lacrette left the room, as she said. And he met two police officers, as she said. So it's Jonathan Lacrette there and two police officers. How she knows, how she knew, right? What transpired there too. Not just in the cabinet, but outside now. All right? At the top of the step, Jonathan Lacrette, two police officers.
Him, Vanny Cohen, and one other. And they escorted him to his office, where he cleared out his stuff. He was advised not to touch the computer or anything belonging to the government of Grenada. And he took his belongings, and they continued to escort him out of the building all the way to his vehicle. They accompanied him. When he was outside, he got a call from the Prime Minister asking him to return at 4 p.m. for a meeting. which he declined. He said, if I was escorted out of the building like a criminal, why should I come back into that same building for a meeting? And so he declined the meeting. The Senate.
So she's now speaking about Jonathan Lacrette again by his vehicle. He got a call. So again, the person that is always in the picture is Jonathan Lacrette in the cabinet, right? Then you move to the on top of the step. Then you move to by the vehicle. So the three occasions, he's the person being featured and talked about. All right. So you have Jonathan Lacrette. Well, four. Because Jonathan Lacrette went to his office with the two police officers. All right. Clean out the thing. They tell him what and what. She could tell you all that too. What the police told him and so on. Then by the vehicle, she could tell us what the prime minister said to him. So he had a phone in his ears and he's speaking, or in his hand and he's speaking. She could tell us that too. But Jonathan Lacrette is in the picture. All right. It's amazing. It's amazing. And look, I am not saying what Jenny is saying is factual or is the truth. I'm not saying that. I am providing this information to you as a public service. She said so in a public forum or public space. And if Jonathan Lacrette believes that she is lying on him, he can sue her for slander. He can do just that. But I can tell you that a number of people relay a similar story to me that was in WhatsApp. It was in a conversation on WhatsApp with a certain individual and a certain individual. All right? So I am at this point more on the side of this woman and what she's saying. But I'm not saying to you that what she's saying is factual. I'm not saying to you that what she's saying is the truth. I am not able to do that. But I'm providing the information to you so that you can use that and make your own decision. But it scares me because one has to ask the question or questions in the cabinet, a private meeting between you, the prime minister, and other ministers of government. And this woman could say word for word what took place in a private, confidential cabinet meeting. Then you're on a step with two police officers, and this woman could tell you word for word what took place there. Then you were in your office, escorted to your office, moved inside your office. And this woman could say word for word what took place there. And all the people who were in that office, the two police officers and you, then you buy your vehicle, and this woman could say all that you said and what transpired in terms of a phone call from the prime minister to you and you responding. So you don't need to be a genius as a person out there to so conclude why, right? Why the prime minister stated that he lacked confidence and trust in that individual. You don't need to be a genius. I am not saying that what Jenny said is factual. I'm not saying that. All right? I am saying if Jonathan Lacrette believes that what Jenny said on her program was false, then sue her. Sue her for slander. All right? I'm only playing this on this program as a public service because she said so on a public platform. But I am not in a position to so conclude that what she's saying is factual. I'm not able to do that. But the information is so important. I'm saying, folks, sometimes these people think they're helping others, but they are not. More people today was able to have a clearer picture, really clear, a vivid picture of this whole situation. There are people who never thought that this guy would reach to that place. They had so much, everything in him. All right? So again, I am saying there is a call by members of the NDC to have Jonathan Lacrette removed as an NDC member. And I think it is one thing that I will support. All right? I will support that move to have him removed from being a member of the NDC party. All right? So not just government. Well, government, he was fired, removed as a senator, removed as a minister. I would go further because he's still a member of the NDC. All right? I would still go further to say there must be moves to remove him totally from the NDC. All right? That's important. Very important. So I want to wish you all the best today again. I want to encourage you to continue to share the program, continue to push the program everywhere you go, what we do. Very soon, the program will be very powerful on the radio again, and it will be way better very soon. So we are happy. We are indeed happy. New equipment for Carriacou, new equipment for Grenada, Granditang, and we will be able to compete with the other stations, all right, in a big way. In a big way. In fact, we would be better than quite a number of other stations in terms of reach, in terms of quality. So the people on radio, good things are ahead for you. And that's Vibes FM 101.3 and 106.3. And I want to thank the people sincerely who gave financially so that we can get the equipment for Vibes FM 101.3 and 106.3 FM. Kim the King, he is eternally grateful to you who gave, and it was an initiative of this program to call on you, the listeners and viewers, to give financially to get to that point. The infrastructure is already there. I've been working assiduously, diligently to get the internet at that booth, to get the electricity at that booth. And we're almost there. All right, internet is already there. Grenlec should connect us during this week also. All right. So far, so good. So far, so good. And let's keep it up. Let's do what we have to do to advance the cause of the transformation agenda. We are on the right track. Let's remain focused. So I will be with you again tonight, God's willing, starting from 8 in the PM until 9. Remember, it's 2 programs. One in the morning time from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and one during the night time from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. The hub and the dynamic hour. So let's continue on that path because it's all about disseminating quality information to educate you, to empower you, and also having a robust intellectual conversation via radio and social media. I want you to be in the know. I want you to be more knowledgeable on many things in the country. All right, sharing the positive stuff. Because so many people have been taught that it's just negativity. and that will make you good, that will make you better, or that will get you to come back into power. No, it's not going to happen that way. Take good care.